It is a conflict basically about resource use. Now, it is a conflict about resource use, access to pasture, the issue of water, and the issue of access to these resources. These conflicts have been there since time immemorial, the conflict between crop breeders and farmers. But of recent, there are infusion of, legal issues, constitutional issues, infusion of religion, infusion of other actors in the dispute, and then, the whole dispute have now become modeled of that, unless somebody discerns carefully for him to understand that, look, this is a conflict between breeders, cattle breeders and crop breeders. Essentially, all of them are producers. It is a conflict between two cousins, but really, because of the infiltration of other issues in the matter, now it has taken shape of, either it comes in the form of religion, or it comes in the form of ethnic identity, or it comes in the form of, geographical identity. But those of us who are active in the sector always insist that, look, by the time you filter out all these infusions that you have, the primary dispute is about resource use, and it is a development challenge that can be addressed not through politics or through religion or through geography, no. Policy have failed to address this issue because livestock development had been neglected for a while. Agriculture itself has suffered tremendously because when Nigeria discovered oil, the center of financial derivation of financial resource moved away from agriculture to oil, and then you can have people who can come to Abuja and then sit down at the end of the month. Federal government will just give them their share from the oil sales, and then everybody goes home. So agriculture itself was neglected. Livestock, being a component of agriculture, also suffered most, and the producers in the livestock sector also suffered most. So this is a culmination of years of neglect of these actors in this area. Now, because of that neglect, or because people just glossed over these issues, now it has come out in the kind of things that we have been telling government and policymakers all these years, that unless if you address these development challenges, then you have conflagration of this kind of disputes. Then you have people who are coming in with arms and ammunition, anarchists who are trying to feast on it. Then you will have the issues of even religion, people trying to draw a line between, saying this set of producers are from this religion, or that set of producers are from that religion. Then you will have this kind of thing. So it is something that had been simmering for quite a long time, and it just got outburst now. But it is something that had been there. If you look at it, particularly in northern Nigeria, since 1965, when the northern Nigeria government created the grazing areas and dedicated these grazing areas to cattle, because that time the center of economic activity was agriculture, and everybody was interested in it. But from 1965 to 2005 or even 2013, things have changed tremendously, and agriculture, it is now that people are even appreciating that we should go back to agriculture, because Nigeria as a food producing nation has become a net food importer, and then we are tying our economic life, and we are even tying our livelihoods to the economic benefits of another country. Why should it be like that? The bill before the National Assembly, that's both the Senate and the House of Representatives, is for a bill to create a commission, that will manage grazing areas, grazing reserves in Nigeria and stock routes. And then, the point we have been making is, look, agriculture had transcended, local government and state government. It has now moved to a level whereby the federal government had to intervene. What we try to do is, there are certain protocols and treaties that the federal government had committed itself to that allows for herders from other countries to come into Nigeria. Now, if these herders are coming in, what route are they taking? Now, if they come in, where are they going to stay? These are issues that should be addressed. You don't expect a local government or a state government to address issues that border on international obligations of the federal government of Nigeria. No. Now, apart from that, even local issues, the grazing reserves that were created are essentially being managed by the federal government. They manage them, they invest in them, they develop them. So why we have saddled an agency of government with huge responsibility without a corresponding increase in the capacity to handle that responsibility. So for us to handle that responsibility, there is a need to enhance and build the capacity of that agency of government to a level whereby it will be adequate, or it will be in a position to deliver on the responsibilities saddled to it. So that is the reason why, even why in the Senate and in the National Assembly, the bill for the creation of a commission to manage, to manage and develop stock rules and grazing reserves in Nigeria has come into place. In Nigeria, incidentally, Nigeria is almost the largest livestock producer in West Africa. But it is only in Nigeria, almost all the Sahelian countries have ministries of livestock. In Nigeria, livestock is just a unit in a department in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. And looking at what livestock have become and what livestock producers have become and the economic activity that is derived from livestock and the conflicts that come along with it, now we feel it is absolutely necessary to have, a department or an agency at the federal level to manage the issues of livestock. A lot of people don't even understand what is the concept of cattle rustling. Cattle rustlers are people who come and steal cattle at gunpoint or at violent level, not necessarily, but at violent level, to take away cows belonging to either agro-pastoralists or pastoralists or even big-time farmers. It has researched so high now in Nigeria. But one of the biggest challenges of this issue now is even the security agencies are just coming into terms with this issue of cattle rustling, because it is an offense that has just emerged of recent, very big, because of the huge increase in population, urban areas, and consumption pattern of people. By the time you don't address this issue of cattle rustling, then you have people who are bringing in small arms and ammunition because they feast on this conflict. So this is what we are saying. Cattle rustling has emerged so strongly of recent. Well, the biggest problem is herd identification system in Nigeria has collapsed from the mid-1980s up to now. Herd identification system has collapsed. Prior to now, if you are going about with cows, you used to have an identification system because you used to pay what we used to call in northern Nigeria jangali, that is the cattle tax. The cattle tax will identify the cows as belonging to you. But now that cattle tax has gone and there is no herd identification system in place to replace it. What is essential is you give unto Caesar and then take something in return. We are not shy of the fact that pastoralists should ordinarily pay cattle tax on their own cattle, and in return, government will give them certain things in return. Government will give them, incentives. Government will vaccinate their herds. Government will give them grazing areas. If you are going to provide these facilities, no herder in Nigeria will say, okay, look, we should just, walk around free. But by the time you don't have these things, it is very difficult for you to ask a herder, to pay tax while he gets nothing in return. Probably, if you are talking tomorrow, you just migrate to the other area. But in this bill that we have now provided, even the management of the grazing areas that will be created or that will be taken over under this bill, it has a contributory scheme that the people who are settled there should contribute towards the development and management of those grazing reserves. Policymakers need to focus on the real producers. The major challenge is rural producers, both livestock producers and agricultural producers are neglected. Policy is shaped by people with respect, by people in the cities. Even if you look at the media in Nigeria today, 75 or even 80% of all the newspaper columns and articles are dedicated to issues of politics. You don't have people, most of the papers will just have, a day's pull out on agriculture or, a weekly thing. You don't focus on it. But we should understand that, for us as a nation, to survive, we need food security. And if you have inadequate food security, you will have the political insecurity that is shaping the perception of the media. That is the kind of thing. And unless we address the challenges that are facing people in the rural areas, people who are the real producers of food in Nigeria, then this kind of conflict inevitably, will affect people in the cities.